Hello, I'm Dr. Lizzie Burns. I'm going to be doing some films about origami, and I really wanted to introduce you to Yuen Har, who I met at the British Origami Society, and I've asked her on the other film about origami and how she got interested. But I'm very curious because I was asking Yuen Har before about her childhood and about how she came to do the work that she does. And so I thought it would be really interesting for you to also find out a little bit. Um, and I was actually contacted with the Science Festival because I started something called the Anti-Boredom Campaign, recognizing boredom as a suffering, and actually how that comes from kind of not having enough to do, things not being interesting enough, and how to help. And origami actually is a way that I found that really does help. But I wonder, you and how we were talking about boredom, and you said about how you remembered very much as a child that it could be boring at times.
Oh, I was. I was so bored at home. My parents, I'm Chinese, I'm from Hong Kong,
Mm.
and my parents both don't speak much English at all. And there are 3 out of 4 of us siblings who don't see. So life at home was quite boring. I don't think my parents knew how to entertain us, and they were at work a lot of the time. And there was no audio description on TV at that time then as well. And I remember watching things like Play School, where they would show you how to make things. I still remember this, a London bus ticket machine where the old things, they probably don't do them anymore, but a man used to come around with a ticket machine, and he used to wind it, break off a ticket and give it to you. And they made one of these on Play School, and they were showing you how to do it. And I remember thinking, I want to do that, but I couldn't follow the instructions, couldn't see how to do it, and everything. And so there were lots of things like that that I was really disappointed. And
Mm.
so I was quite bored when I was at home. And then when I went to school, well, I have ended up going to a number of visually impaired boarding schools. And whilst I didn't like boarding and being away from home,
Mm.
I was less bored there, because obviously, there was school, and they had a lot more things to do, a lot more toys. Didn't have many toys actually at home either. But yeah, there was a lot more to do. They let me do a lot more things, so I became less bored
Mm.
there. I learnt to knit there, and I
Wow.
still knit quite a bit now.
Wow.
Um,
So it's that kind of need for physical interaction, isn't there? I guess.
it's to do
Like,
something,
to
yeah,
do
to do
things.
something, to make something, because often people say, uh, 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 when they come across somebody blind or somebody newly blind, they say, oh, you can get lots of talking books and you can sit and read books. And sometimes you think, yeah, but I want to actually do something,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just read. So knitting, origami, all things like that are good. And, at school, we got to do a load of other things like gymnastics and judo. I got green belt in judo. We
Wow.
did horse riding, which I didn't like, but they'd let you have a go at anything really that they
Brilliant.
had.
And
Uh,
how did you end up? So you did. Is it right that you went to university,
yeah, I went to
in
university.
engineering?
Yeah, I did an engineering degree.
How did you choose that? How did you manage? Was it hard?
I've always been a science person, so I like to know how things work. Always enjoyed maths and science at school. Um, it was very hard, actually. Much harder than I would have anticipated. In fact, if I'd known how hard it was going to be, I might not have done it. but but I wouldn't let that put anyone off, because at the time, when you're a teenager, you think you can do anything, and it's a good job because otherwise you wouldn't do anything. Um, so you think you're invincible, you think you can cope, and of course you do cope.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it would be easier these days because there is so much more awareness of disabilities and support for disabilities. So now you can get people to help you with taking notes and producing accessible material. Whereas when I went
Yeah.
in the 80s, there was none of that. There was no support like that whatsoever. So you had to find your own way to make notes in lectures that you couldn't even understand. It was just really, really, really hard. But I had someone, my surrogate granddad, who was extremely supportive, has always been extremely supportive. He's an engineer. He used to work for the GCHQ,
Oh,
and he often supplied me with tactile diagrams, books that were read on tape, moral support, lots and lots of moral support, because all the teachers thought it
oh,
would be really difficult, but he
yeah.
knew it'd be difficult, but he also thought I should follow it. So I think that even if you've at least got one person on your side, you
Yes.
can do it. You only need one person who's really, really supportive.
Oh,
Um,
that's lovely.
and I had that. Well, I had lots of supportive people, but one person who was particularly always there for me. And I found that really at every stage of my life, there's always been one person, at least one person, who's been willing to go the extra mile. And I think when you've got that, you can really do anything.
Oh, that's so lovely. And you're such a positive, like, such a friendly person. I can imagine so many people would just so enjoy your company as well. It goes both ways, doesn't it? You're obviously so curious and interested
Yeah,
and
and
enthusiastic and
I'm very curious, and I like people. I like to know about people and interested in what they're interested in, because you think, oh, I might be able to do that. Or I just like knowing about people. So I think that whilst being visually impaired or blind is a real pain, and I wouldn't, I wouldn't choose to be it. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. You can make it work better than people think. So whenever I need help from people to show me somewhere or help someone, I always take the opportunity to find out a bit about them. Because as I
mm.
say, I like people, and you can build up some really good friendships that way as well.
That sounds like brilliant tips in life anyway. But yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and so you've managed to you've got a great career as well. You've done really well and
yeah.
used
I've got
your engineering.
yeah. So I got into engineering. Well, I've ended up in software engineering now, which
Hmm.
is not quite where I wanted to be. Initially, I wanted to be electronic engineer. However, I didn't kind of really understand it enough, and I didn't didn't understand it too much at uni. Didn't like lecturers, so that kind of put me off.
Mm.
Um, and I guess I ideally I would have liked to have been doing more sort of maybe hardware engineering, but it's um too visual. There aren't the tools really to help somebody who's blind being able to understand all those diagrams, to work all the computer aided drawing things and modeling tools, I'm afraid to say. So I've kind of gone into software engineering, which still requires loads of diagrams, to be honest. But
Oh, and
yeah,
your origami is maybe the area that you're able to keep up your engineering and physical side as well.
yeah, yeah. So it's still what I do now. It's I'm in telecoms, so mobile telephones. So it's technical. It's technical. It's software engineering. It's technical. It's just not kind of hardware engineering. Who knows? I don't know. I might not have enjoyed it anyway. But that, when you go in when you're young and you go in with a dream.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
thanks ever so much. Thank you for sharing all of those experiences and yeah, and also how much people have really helped and that you've yeah, sought that help and had those people encouraging and yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.